let's pivot to someone equally as funny and slightly less, I don't know, I'm gonna say less annoying than Greg Gutfeld, but I don't think that's true. I think Elon is a lot more annoying. But I will say I felt like Elon has been missing for a while. Did anyone else feel that way? Because he's been so in your face he was so in your face for the first like 3.5 months of the Trump presidency that I feel like he's just been like gone, like absent for the last like 2 weeks, which I know is not a very long time. At least when you're an adult, it doesn't feel like a very long time. But when that person who's missing is Elon, it feels like an eternity, right? Like Elon's gone for like 24 minutes. You're like, whoa, like where's that guy? Like the sun's out, and you go, oh, the sun's out because he's gone. But yeah, I saw that he was in Saudi Arabia for whatever big investment forum they were having. So I thought it'd be good to just like catch up with Elon. I know we don't have the best relationship, but it's still good to keep abreast of what's happening with him. I know that after that sale, and rather that like earnings call at the end of Q1 for Tesla, like he kind of had to pull back or said he was pulling back from the administration because like the company was not doing very well and there were talks internally about replacing him at CEO, which simply cannot for him happen. Although even it would be if it would be best for the company, I think that's a dubious prospect because the company is simply not worth as much as it is valued at. And a lot of that value is tied up in Elon, which he has further tied up in his position within the administration. And so, like, I don't know if getting rid of him would be anything other than a stopgap solution for the fact that the company Tesla as like a car manufacturer is just not on the cutting edge anymore. It's not delivering its promised products in a timely fashion. So getting rid of Elon would have just been like, I think, a stopgap measure. And that's, again, I don't know if it's like a pet theory, but certainly what I have articulated as the reason for Elon jumping so full, like jumping in with both feet into the political arena is the, at least on his part, acknowledgement that something had to change in either his life or in Tesla that would keep the, grift going for a little longer. So, I mean, I feel as though it's pretty obvious why he got involved in politics. And unfortunately, instead of slowing the and maybe even reversing the slowly bleeding out, bloated corpse of Tesla, it's actually just sped up its deterioration. And so he has to kind of like jump back in to try to salvage that. But now that his own personal brand is so negative, it really, I mean, the whole thing was like a bad idea, obviously. But before we watch the clip, which I can only imagine we'll only get through half of because of how annoying Elon is, I'll look at some of your chats, make sure we're doing right by each other. Galax ATK on Twitch says Elon's experiencing diminishing returns for sure. Like, yeah, maybe before he jumped into the politics as like public facing as he did, Tesla had 5-6 years left before it went bankrupt, before it was like slowly, and maybe not even bankrupt, right? He's over leveraged probably on how he utilizes his stock to afford the lifestyle he's used to. But like Tesla as a company probably would have been still around. It would have just shrunk in its market cap to be something that was more reasonable considering the product it was pushing. Tesla's large valuation is because of him. And maybe after 6 years of continued bad products and full self-driving mode not coming to fruition in the way it's supposed to, its market cap would have shrunk to be something more reasonable, resembling what the company is actually worth, which would have meant that his own personal net worth would have gone down quite a bit. But I think he accelerated Tesla's decline by actually getting as involved as he did, thinking that he would be able to fully stave it off or reverse it. I don't know, but he's a bad business guy apparently when it comes to making those kinds of decisions. Uh, Overzealous euthanasiast on Twitch says Trump's Truth Social company also got a super sus valuation before going public and being worth millions upon millions despite never making more than a couple of thousand throughout its whole life. That to me was always the same thing as what's going on with Trump's crypto coin now, though, which is that Trump has a company that he is able to use to enrich himself while still having a level of plausible deniability about that whole process. And people who want to ingratiate with themselves with Trump just buy the stock. Like the valuation of Truth Social was, again, always driven by like its ability to get you closer in proximity and possibly favors from Donald Trump. We just have a lot of mechanisms for legalized bribery. And in the case of a lot of this stuff, it's not quite legalized. Like the Cutter plane, the crypto coin, it's corruption, obviously, but it's a mechanism for corruption is what I mean. Let's see. Soul Life on YouTube says, apparently Elon is sitting on 800 million worth of Cybertrucks they can't sell. They made a cheaper rear-wheel drive version that's only $69,999. Nice. Tesla isn't effed yet, but it's not looking good. The Cybertruck was, I guess, a sign of the things to come.
Oh, I'm sure we can do a better welcome than that to Elon Musk in Saudi Arabia. There you go. That's the spirit.
Thank you.
Elon, my dear friend, we're honored to have President Trump. We're honored under the sponsorship and guidance of His Royal Highness to celebrate a U.S.-Saudi and a Saudi-U.S. relationship that is 92 years old, about how we move from an oil-based economy to an innovation-based economy powered by wonderful technologies that definitely you're one of the pioneers in this industry. We just showed to His Royal Highness some of your Optimus robots.
Yeah.
And to President Trump.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Tell me about them.
Yes, so we just showed several of our Tesla Optimus robots to His Highness and President Trump, and I think they were very impressed. In fact, one of our robots did the Trump dance, which I thought was pretty cool.
The YMCA, yeah?
Yeah, to YMCA. So, yeah, our robots can dance. They can...
The Trump dance is not very, impressive, though. It doesn't demonstrate a lot of, complex articulation. Like, Rock'em Sock'em robots do, the Trump dance, if you think about it, because they just do, that's the Trump dance. If it had done the YMCA dance to YMCA, that would be a lot more impressive, I think.
Walk around, they can interact.
Can they?
I think we're headed to...
Can they actually? Because I saw that video of it dancing on X, but then I remembered that last time they were walking around and interacting, we found out that it was just people in mocap suits who were controlling them from afar. So I don't know. I would have to kind of see it to... I not believe it, because even if I saw it, unless I was 100% sure that it could not be some person in a mocap suit doing it, I wouldn't believe it. But I don't see what it even really matters.
A radically different world. I think a good world, an interesting world. My prediction actually for humanoid robots is that ultimately there will be tens of billions. I think everyone will want to have their personal robot.
Oh God! I just wish he could lie better. He just says stuff like this, and then there's gonna be tens of billions of humanoid robots walking around. Why? Why would that be the case? Right? Because he's just a moron, right? And so a lot of his fans are also stupid. But why would tens of billions of these things be needed? I get that people think that automation of tasks is a good idea and robots would be part of that automation. But most tasks that you might want to automate don't require a bipedal humanoid robot. It would just be a terminal at a computer, or the car manufacturing big arm robots, or the Da Vinci spider robots that do surgery. It wouldn't require a humanoid bipedal iRobot type robot. That doesn't make any... Why would there be tens of billions of them? For what purpose? That's just a stupid thing to say. But of course it's going to make people who are meme stock owners of Tesla clap deranged harp seals for a treat. It's laughable. Why would there be that many? Of course, it's he's a children's understanding of the world.
R2D2, but even better.
Yeah, see, exactly. R2D2 is a great example of what I'm saying. It's R2D2 is not a bipedal robot. R2D2 R2D2 is like a rolling trash can because that's all you really need for what R2D2 is for. Like, in fact, being a bipedal robot would be less efficient in most cases to have than any other type of like robot for a task. Like, there are so few tasks where being a bipedal humanoid shaped thing is like useful that is not like, that could not be like outsourced to just like, for example, driving would not be made better by having like a bipedal robot driving you around. It would be best if Tesla's vehicles worked like they said, which didn't require anyone behind the seat because the car just drove itself. Like, I'm sorry, it's just little things like that. Like just like little things like that.
Then who wouldn't want to have their own personal C-3PO R2-D2? That would be pretty great. I also think it unlocks an immense amount of economic potential, because when you think of like what is the output of an economy, it is
robots,
productivity per capita times population or capita. Once you have humanoid robots, the actual economic output potential is tremendous. It's really unlimited. Potentially, we could have an economy 10 times the size of the current global economy, where no one wants for anything. Sometimes in AI they talk about universal basic income. I think it's actually going to be universal high income, where anyone can have any goods or services that they want. A science fiction book recommendation that I have, which I think is probably the best envisioning of an AI future, is the culture books by Ian Banks. Very highly recommended for a non-dystopian view of the future. Now, there obviously are some risks, which illustrate perhaps if we don't do this right, you could have like a James Cameron sort of movie, Terminator. We don't want that one. But having sort of a Star Trek future would be great, where we're out there exploring the stars, discovering the nature of the universe, and a level of prosperity and hopefully happiness that we can't quite imagine yet. So I'm very excited about the future, and very glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's our absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
And His Royal Highness was talking to you about his vision and his dream to increase productivity for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and power up the region and the whole world with robotics, but also on robo-taxis. So how are we doing on robo-taxis?
So really you can think of a car or future cars as being robots on four wheels. And I think it would be very exciting to have autonomous vehicles here in the kingdom.
Indeed.
If you're
So when are they coming?
You heard it here from Elon. He's bringing his robo-taxi to the kingdom.
Yeah, don't make promises for Elon.
He has another announcement that he's going to share later.
Exactly. So, and I'd also like to thank the kingdom for approving Starlink for maritime and aviation use. Thank you.
Maritime and aviation. There you go. There you go.
So you're
going to bring us robots to help us increase up?
Wanzetta, that's probably pronouncing that wrong, on YouTube says, he might be dumber than Trump. It's a tough call. I don't know. I think Elon is dumber than Trump. I think that Elon is dumber than Trump for one very specific reason, because like Trump doesn't get himself into circumstances like this without being able to like more or less talk his way out of it. Like Elon has made himself the face of like techno-futurism and doesn't seem to understand even the most basic elements of like science communication. And I guess I can't say if he understands the underlying science. I'm not in those meetings with them when they're talking about that. My impression from listening to him talk here is that he does not, but he's not a very effective communicator of like his views. Everything. And I mean, I do think for me, he's a very effective vehicle for criticizing our current state of like techno-capitalism, like techno-fiefdom that we live in, because Elon is like the perfect like microcosm for understanding like one of the core mythologies and promises of capitalism, especially like, modern digital capitalism. I know I keep just like throwing words around there that are interchangeable if the way I'm using like techno feudalism and stuff like that. But you know what I mean? Like our modern age of like very digital existence, technology, like we think of technology like apps, like, computers, like iPhones. He is a very effective face of what that is supposed to be acting as in terms of a counterbalance to the negatives of capitalism. So like when you talk about like how capitalism has immiserated large swaths of the globe, how it creates all of these like negative incentives for businesses and for people when it comes to like harming the environment and each other, people like gesture to things like what Elon represents of like, oh yeah, like all of the bad things that capitalism has done are in fact bad, but that is outweighed by like the good things. And the good things now are things like what that Elon represents, like the ability to like put people into space, like this sort of like potential idealized future as told through the lenses of like half remembered 80s sci-fi movies is what people think is like the acceptable trade-off for like a world in the present that we are currently being immiserated under. And so like Elon, it has always benefited from filling that role as a businessman, being like the face of like the technological future trade-off for our like incredibly immiserated present, if that makes any sense. Because like that's what people want to believe like we're working towards. Like, oh yeah, like all of the problems of today are just because we have not reached that certain level of technological advancement, which is what we're going to be hitting very soon. Like the Star Trek is a good example of like a post-scarcity future that people imagine can be achieved through like technological advancement, irrespective of the ideology it's attached to. When like if we were to have a post-scarcity future, it would have to be as a result of ideological shifts that come before the technology, as opposed to like one day someone inventing something that suddenly makes scarcity just like not make sense, because the system that we exist under would have to make it make sense, because scarcity is how we monetize things in most cases. So like people want to believe what Elon is selling them or what he represents, that like one day we're going to have matter replicators and then all of this stuff that we're going through won't even matter. It's like if we did have matter replicators, people would just do like the people who create them would just do something fucked up to ensure that we still have to pay for everything, right? Like that's because that's just the system that we live under. Like it's just an abdication of responsibility for having to change the system versus like just waiting for an invention to come along that like solves climate change, for example.
Productivity, robo taxis to make sure that our cars and assets turn into a cash generating unit, and Starlink to reform our aviation and maritime. Talk about XAI.
Absolutely, but I should want to mention also something that may be worth considering is tunnels.
The Boring Company.
I have this company called The Boring Company, which sounds kind of boring, but it literally bores tunnels.
Yeah, great joke.
Actually, tunnels, in order to solve traffic, you really need to go 3D.
First, he's going to explain what boring means, and then he's going to explain how tunnels work. Amazing.
With roads, and by using tunnels, you can essentially create like a wormhole, like a warp tunnel from one part of a city to another, and alleviate traffic.
You can't.
We've actually already done this proof of concept.
I mean, you can't, right? Because it's not a wormhole. It's not what is it? An Einstein Rosenkrantz? No, I forget what they call it in sliders. An Einstein Rosenberg bridge that makes one place, two places exist simultaneously at the same place in space. You're just moving where traffic is, which admittedly can be of a benefit, right? It can go like, okay, well, there is some aesthetic benefit to not having to see traffic when you're outside, right? It doesn't make it as noisy, but that might be counterbalanced by like the amount of safety issues that are, we've all seen Daylight, right? Where like they get trapped in the tunnel under the Hudson River. And by they, I mean Sylvester Stallone in like a bus full of people or whatever. Like when you have tunnels, you create that problem. And so like it's a balance, right? It doesn't like just make people teleport.
Vegas. So there are working tunnels in Las Vegas.
I saw sliders
that you can use where that'll just, it feels like teleporting from one part of Vegas to another. So I always say that, my joke is like tunnels are underappreciated. It's a bit of not always a hit, but
please laugh. Polite clapping.
Yeah, and then XAI.
This is what happens when you don't have an applause light.
Just trying to solve general purpose artificial intelligence. The goal with XAI is to have a maximally truth-seeking AI. And it's important to be a maximally truth-seeking AI in order to understand the universe. Mm-hmm. So the goal of XAI is understand the universe, to understand what is out there, where's the universe going, where did it come from, what questions. In fact, I think maybe the biggest thing is what questions do we not know to ask?
About building a tunnel?
Once you know the question, the answer is usually the easy part. So the goal of XAI is to help understand the universe.
Oh, XAI, okay.
And that's the goal. And help people answer any questions along the way.
This might be a weird question, but is he more articulate in like Afrikaans? Is that the issue? Is he just like a English as a second language student, and we're just assholes? We're not it's like one of those situations where like a person who immigrates to America speaks like 7 languages, and Americans are like, oh, your English ain't so good, buddy, and to that person, because like English is like the 8th language they're learning, and so sometimes they're not as good. Is that what it with Elon, where Elon speaks like Zulu and like Xhosa and like fucking Afrikaans, and his English is just a little poor? Because I would feel a little bit worse making fun of him, but like, are there any videos of him like speaking a different language? I'm just curious, like if he's articulate in any language, like if he's able to express himself better in like his own native language. Is Metageta saying no, English is his first parentheses only language? Oh, okay, well then I don't know what to pin it on then.
Of course, but that's my philosophy. My philosophy is one of curiosity, just trying to understand the nature of reality.
So I know you had a long day, but we also have the Honorable President and His Royal Highness Musaidi hitting the stage soon. Yes. So this is a historic day, a partnership about how we could join hands together, as we have joined hands in the past 92 years, on building a factor-based economy to help the world and power up 20% of the energy mix, which is very critical today to the AI intelligence age, the digital age, and how we have reformed, and with the intelligent age. And we could not be more appreciative of having a lifetime partner and a friend like you, Elon, to the kingdom.
Thank you.
Joining hands on.
Oh, okay, it's over. That's great. I love when they just like totally. Yeah, so I guess Trump was also there. Trump's speech is like super long, and I do want to pivot to Trump's speech, but I got to be honest. There's probably zero chance that we watch this whole thing. Like listening to Trump speak like live is just more psychic damage than I'm willing to take for 48 minutes. But we'll listen to a little bit of it. We'll listen to a little bit of it.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. What a great place. What a great place, but more importantly, what great people. Mm-hmm. I want to thank His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, for that incredible introduction. He's an incredible man. Known him a long time now. There's nobody like him. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much, my friend. And it's a tremendous honor to return to this beautiful kingdom and be welcomed back with such extraordinary generosity and warmth. I've never forgotten the exceptional hospitality showed to us by King Solomon, who's just, we talk about a great man. That is a great man. That is a great man, a great family. And that visit took place exactly 8 years ago. The graciousness of the royal family and the Saudi people is really unsurpassed, no matter where you go. Let me also thank the countless ministers, government officials, business leaders, and distinguished guests for that warm welcome. Very warm, and I know so many of you. I'd like to call out all of your names, but we have a lot of problems. We'd be here for a long time. We don't want that, so don't be upset.
We don't want that.
With this historic state visit, we celebrate more than 80 years of close partnership between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Ever since President Franklin Roosevelt met with King Solomon's father, King Abdul Aziz, aboard the USS Quincy in 1945,
this is
the
way
U.S.-Saudi
better.
relationship has been a
This is how
bedrock
fast
of
I
security
talk,
and
so I
prosperity.
appreciate it.
Today, we reaffirm this important bond, and we take the next steps to make our relationship closer, stronger, and more powerful than ever before. It is more powerful than ever before. And by the way, it will remain that way. We don't go in and out like other people. It will remain that way. I've come this afternoon to talk about the bright future of the Middle East, but first let me begin by sharing the abundance of good news from a place called America. In less than 4 months, our new administration has achieved more than most other administrations accomplish in 4 years or even 8 years. We've actually done, for the most part, more. The day I took office, we inherited, thank you. Thank you. The day I took office, we inherited a colossal invasion on our southern border, an invasion like you'd never want to see here. Nobody should ever want to see it. But within weeks, we slashed illegal border crossings to an all-time low, down 99.999%. That's good, even for this great gentleman standing right in front of me. That's a good number. We had...
Is this the right place for
We had
this?
hundreds
about,
of thousands of people. They came
like,
in at the same time last year. And last month, we had, in this massive border, 3 people that got in.
He has to talk about stuff like this because in reality, Trump hasn't actually accomplished anything impressive when it comes to like the economy in America, that not positively, right? Over the past 100 days, the things that he touts as being impressive, like Apple being willing to say that they'll invest more money in bringing home to America more manufacturing, that stuff just isn't, probably going to happen the way he's describing. And so a lot of his like victories are ones like this, like trampling all over America's Constitution with his like extra legal attack on refugees and other forms of immigrants, documented and undocumented, and just citizens. And so like, I guess when you're in Saudi Arabia, a place with like a repressive regime, you might as well talk about the authoritarianism you're doing at home. But I think it's telling that he can't stick to like his, look at all these great wins we have with our investments at home. Like me, I'm not a Biden fan. I'm not even like a fan of the way Biden handled the economy in like a holistic sense. But in the terms of like what the Saudi U.S. investment forum should be for, the fact that like he inherited one of like the strongest on paper economies should be the center of what he's talking about, how well America's doing with like all of these like goods and well, not goods, but services, financial services that it provides more or less. The fact that he's talking about like the border is like, okay, so like you kind of, you're showing that like the economy in America is, kind of tits up right now.
That's quite a difference. And we have no choice but to get a lot of the people that came in because they were not the best people. They were in many cases very bad people. We're getting them out. We're getting them out very fast. We're bringing them back to where they came from. We have no choice. After years of military recruiting shortfalls, enlistments in the U.S. armed forces are now the highest.
What's he doing?
Military very bad people. We get shortfalls. Enlistments in the U.S. armed forces are now the highest in 30 years because there is such an incredible spirit in the United States of America. We have tremendous spirit again. Just about a year ago, there was a big story, front page on every paper all over the world, that nobody wanted to enlist in our military, meaning we were way under enlisted. And just last week it came out.
We're not going to watch this whole thing. Like if we watch the first 10 minutes of this in 1.5 times speed and he doesn't mention anything economically, I think we can take that to be a sign of like, how bad American economy is doing. I'm sure there are little snippets of this that probably have more troubling things, but like I can't see us listening to all 40 minutes of this, or I guess at 1.5 times speed, that would be 23 minutes or something. I don't know. I guess, 30? I can't do the math right now.
That we had the strongest enlistment. They say 30 years, but probably it's maybe ever. They don't go back that far. It's the best, and that includes police officers, firemen, everything else. There's a great spirit in the United States right now. A brand new poll from Rasmussen just showed that the number of Americans who believe the nation is on the right track, they have a right track, wrong track, is now the highest in over 20 years. And it hasn't been anything like this because for many years it was the wrong track. And I can tell you for the last 4 years it was definitely the wrong track. But it's the highest it's been in many, many years. We renamed the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. That was very popular, other than perhaps with Mexico. And most importantly, for the people in this room, the days of economic misery under the last administration are rapidly giving way to the greatest economy in the history of the world. We are rocking. The United States is the hottest country, with the exception of your country, I have to say, right?
Wow,
I'm
great.
not going to take that on. No, Mohammed,
Make Saudi Arabia great again.
Wouldn't that be a terrible thing if I made that full statement? But I will not do it. You're hotter. At least as long as I'm up here, you're hotter. But groceries, gasoline, energy, and all other prices are down with no inflation. We have no inflation in a few short weeks. We've created 464,000 brand new jobs. Think of that. It's almost 500,000 jobs created just in a matter of weeks. We just reached a historic trade agreement with the United Kingdom, and over the weekend we reached a breakthrough agreement with China. Both outstanding deals. China's agreed. We have to get it down. We have to get the little details down.
The details.
Very hard,
exactly.
China's agreed to open up to the United States for trade and everything else. But they have to do it, so we'll see what happens. But we had a very, very good meeting with both of those countries. We are cutting 10 old regulations for every new regulation. We're getting rid of all of the red tape that is so many, frankly, countries, as they get older, they develop a lot of red tape, and we're getting rid of it. We're getting rid of it at record levels. And I'm pleased to report that the United States Congress is on the verge of passing the largest tax cut and regulation cut in American history. We think we're in good shape to get that. And if we get that, that will be like a rocket ship for our country. In the first quarter of the year, the investment in America was up an astounding 22%. More than $10 trillion of new investments have been announced or are coming just since the election on November 5th. So think of that in a very short period of time.
Yeah, Marco Rubio got me
over
there. That's how I feel, too. It's boring.
And it could be much higher than that. Not everybody comes to the White House to have a news conference that they're going to be opening up in America, but they're all coming in at numbers that we've never seen before. If you take a look at other presidencies, they wouldn't do $1 trillion sometime in years. We did this in essentially 2 months because you have to say we got into office and they gave me about a month to clean up and fix up the Oval Office. And after that, we started working, and the money is pouring in, the jobs are pouring in, the companies are pouring into our country like we've never seen before. There's never been anything like it. And we let other people tariff us into losing a lot of money and a lot of jobs, and now we're tariffing them.
So, this is just a stump speech, and it's boring. Not to be, or rather, at the risk of being a little insensitive, call me Jamal Khashoggi, because this shit in Saudi Arabia is killing me. So we're going, we're gonna stop right there. We're gonna stop. I assume that this is more like, maybe let's do some of our due diligence. Let's do some of our due diligence, and let's just skip ahead 10 minutes and see if he gets to something. We'll do a minute, see if he gets to something a little bit more, I don't know, specific or interesting. Is it?
Right here in the Middle East, so beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing that's happening. I guess, the people that are here can't even really appreciate it because you see it happening, and it's when you come to a place that you haven't seen in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years that it's even more incredible. When I left office just over 4 years ago, that future seemed almost impossible, what you've done. Together we had obliterated the killers of ISIS. We wiped them out, terminated its founder and leader, al-Baghdadi. We had healed the divide in the Gulf Cooperation Council. It's a very big deal. And united the nations of the region to stand against the enemies of all civilization. We'd imposed unprecedented sanctions on Iran and starved the regime of resources to fund terror. They were unable to fund anything because they had no money left.
Okay.
But the new administration...
So this isn't about investment. This is the same kind of shit you can get anywhere. I'm sure some people will feel like that is me not doing my due diligence by not listening to this whole thing, but we have listened to this whole thing. He says this thing every time he opens his mouth. He says these exact things, maybe not in this exact order with, these specific shout outs implemented, right? Because he's in Saudi Arabia. So he has to say something about Mohammed bin Salman. He has to say something about the desert. He has to say something about camels or some shit. But if he were in Florida, he would just replace Mohammed bin Salman with Mickey Mouse, and he would replace the desert with the Everglades, and he would replace camels with fucking crocodiles. We've all listened to Trump speak, and he's gotten worse and more, I think, rote as he's gotten older, and he's checked out. And so this kind of stuff, he's on autopilot. So I feel like he's wasting my time. I feel like he's wasting our time, and so I don't want to waste your time any longer.